Hello, I'm Eric Matisik, co-chair of Denver Startup Week. Last year, we were able to bring the global audience together for Denver Startup Week, and this year, we're excited to welcome that global audience back as we celebrate and showcase the best of entrepreneurship that the Denver ecosystem in Colorado has to offer, in Denver and beyond. There are lots to explore this week, but most importantly, we're excited that you're joining us. We have nearly 50 sponsor companies who contribute to make Denver Startup Week possible. Let's show our love for these companies today and all week long. Thanks to our headquarters and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors whose leadership makes this week come to life, Capital One Cafe, the Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork, and our track sponsors who've made all the great content you're hearing today possible, which includes our founder track sponsor, Kickstart, our growth track sponsor, Friday Health Plans, developer track sponsor, Quizlet, product track sponsor, Palantir, design track sponsor, Battery 621 and the Public Works, people track sponsor, Exactly, and the spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing this excitement to the entire week. Thank you to B-Side Fund, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing Company, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, Gusto, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pi Insurance, Promontory Mortgage Path, Red Bull Basement, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and the VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our sponsors and member sponsors who are listed on the screen, and thank you for your support of Denver Startup Week. Now, let's get to it.
Hello, Denver. We are so excited to be here. We're excited to tell you a bit more about the Foundry for Builders program and to be a part of the Denver startup ecosystem. We moved our headquarters to Denver in the last year, and we're excited to call Denver home. Foundry for Builders, essentially we're offering our end-to-end Foundry solution that is deployed to major governments and enterprises worldwide, to early and growth stage companies so that they can build their business on Foundry from day one.
Hi everyone, welcome to Denver Startup Week. My name is Ryan Margolis and I'm the Product Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At DSW, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation. A special thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep DSW free and accessible for all. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week.
Wonderful. All right, Denver Startup Week, we can go ahead and get started. Hello, and thank you guys for all joining today. My name is Skye Bacus, and I'm the Senior Product Manager at Brandfolder, a Denver-based startup that was acquired by Smartsheet last year. Brandfolder is an intuitive and powerful digital asset management platform, and Smartsheet is a highly flexible enterprise collaborative work management platform. I spend a lot of time really assessing how my customers do work and how we can evolve our products to help teams collaborate and realize their full potential. And I think for me, that mindset has really expanded beyond the scope of my product. And I've spent a lot of time evolving the process around my product so that my coworkers and stakeholders can do their best work too. This talk is heavily focused on ways product managers can grow from shipping products to mobilizing your entire company around the success of the product. So I'll share some methods I use to support a SaaS company as it scaled from 60 employees to over 120 in 10 months. And throughout this organizational growth, I managed to scale myself as a solo product manager by leveraging something that every product person uses, the product backlog. And just a quick note on the format of this discussion, I'll run through some of what this process can look like. And then at the end of the session, I'll take a few minutes to answer any questions that pop up along the way. So my experience led me to a hypothesis. The product backlog is a single source of truth that can help every team across the company do better work. I know this sounds kind of lofty, but I do believe that this can be the case. For companies that focus on creating SaaS products or digital consumer experiences, the product is what the sales team sells, what marketing markets, and what product support supports and customer implementation implements. It's really the center of the company. It's heart, and the product backlog is really what drives that product forward. It's what drives the company forward. And the output of the backlog really impacts how effective the marketing machine is and how the sales team is enabled. These factors impact larger numbers of qualified leads and a sales team that is effectively armed to close deals. And the output of these prospect conversations and market signals become inputs again into the product backlog. So if this entire ecosystem is optimized, then every team that interacts with the product team will be able to go forth and do their best work. And when I say product backlog, I'm talking about the prioritized list of items that the product team will work on. I think this was originally introduced in the 1990s with the Scrum methodology. And, the product team typically includes product, design, and engineering. So the process is around this product backlog, and how work gets done by the product team are some of the earliest methodologies in product development, and they're incredibly well documented. But there's a ton of space and things happening outside of the product team and the product backlog. Product backlogs don't exist in a vacuum. There are a lot of inputs and outputs that often get overlooked and unoptimized. There are some methodologies that aim to solve for this gray area, like Scaled Agile Framework or large-scale Scrum. But if you're a single product person or a lean product team, all of that process may be overkill. If product managers and everyone on this call today want to make every team across the company more successful and improve collaboration, a good starting point is to focus on the basics. I like to think that Marty Kagan said it best in his book, Inspired. Software projects can be thought of as having two distinct stages: figuring out what to build the right product, and building the product right. The first stage is dominated by product discovery, and the second stage is all about execution. If any of you attended Mercy Grace's talk yesterday, she alluded to this idea as well. It's really the primary focus of the PM. This product mindset can be applied to solving any type of problem. And this quote holds true for everything from managing software projects to managing your cross-functional relationships as a product manager. So today we'll dive into how we can apply these two phases of product discovery and execution to help product managers scale and optimize their product process and ultimately elevate their org with the backlog. Discovery starts with identifying a problem or set of problems that impact users. This happens through research, observation, and conversations with those users. If we're thinking about this in the context of our product process, the users are your stakeholders. In my organization, my key stakeholders are the marketing team, the sales team, customer implementation, customer success, and customer support. Try outlining who your primary stakeholders are across your company. I think this list is really crucial for the rest of this process. So if you're thinking about implementing this, this is a great starting point. So how can you discover what pain points exist in your current process? You can make assumptions based on information you already have, like maybe customer support doesn't know as soon as bugs are resolved so that they can follow up with customers. But I would recommend meeting with all of your key stakeholders and just having a very real conversation. In many ways, this round of stakeholder interviews is similar to customer interviews. So don't be afraid to lean into some user research methodologies you have and get the results that you need. Set up one-on-ones with your key stakeholders. During these discussions, I spent a few minutes getting to know my stakeholders better because I was new to Brandfolder, and then I hopped into the deep end. Ask them about their role, who they work with, how their team works with the product team, what success looks like on their team, what's painful about how they do work today. When I started out on this discovery journey, I started identifying where the communication and collaboration with the product team was less than ideal. And I captured these problems and started defining what my new and improved process would need to be able to do in order for it to be better than the status quo. And based on some of the conversations I had with my marketing team, I saw a need for more insight into what was on the product roadmap, what the status of all of these items were, what customer problems we were solving, and when we estimated these solutions would make it out into the world. The personas, problem, and solution help the marketing team plan their go-to-market strategy for the new features. And insight into timing helps them plan marketing campaigns and sales enablement. And because the product team also maintains our marketing website, this marketing team needed a way to make requests to build new pages and support their go-to-market efforts. And the sales team had some similar asks. They needed access to a customer-friendly version of their product roadmap so that they can confidently share the product vision with customers and partners. They also needed line of sight on all of those new projects and when they were going to make it out into the world and what the documentation was around them so that they could build out technical demo scripts. And because the sales team is constantly in market, getting feedback from prospective customers, they need a way to give fast feedback and make product enhancement requests. And I think a lot of SaaS and service-driven companies often have customer implementation teams to ensure that their customers hit the ground running and start effectively using the product to solve their unique business problems. They need the details on timing for new product capabilities so that they can prepare training materials for customers and ensure that they're always training them on the most recent version of the product. Sometimes this onboarding may also require support from the development team, which means that this team needs a way to make requests and monitor the progress of those requests. And the customer support team, in my mind, these are the true champions of great customer experiences. Many of the issues customers have aren't actually product issues, and this team educates and assists customers when a problem arises. But if there is a product issue, the support team needs a way to ensure that the highest priority issues get surfaced in the backlog. They need to monitor the progress of those issues and instantly be notified when hot items are resolved. And these are only a few of the pain points I uncovered during my interviews. Ultimately, there are a lot more that my final process solved for, and honestly, still there that I need to solve for. But I think you kind of get the idea. Because I'm a product person, I really just started documenting all of these wants and needs as the highest level requirements for my product process. And when I sat down and really thought about these requests, I think there was a really clear pattern. There was one thing that they all had in common, and that was the product backlog. It was the single source of truth that I could use to communicate project status, intake issues and requests, and whatever else my stakeholders needed. The discovery phase for my new product process felt complete. And what had started as a desire to improve the product process at Brandfolder was really maturing into a well-defined path to improving cross-functional collaboration across the entire company as it related to the product team. The second phase of this project is all about execution. We need to take our idea for a product ecosystem and turn it into a solution that works for our stakeholders. And when I say product ecosystem, I'm talking about the product backlog and all of the ways that information can flow into and out of the backlog. I think that execution is the fun part. This is where we can build the backlog of our dreams, because product managers dream about that sometimes. We can leverage modern tools to help simplify workflows between teams, and we can automate a lot of repetitive tasks. We can democratize information so that everyone has the access they need. And the product manager, or me, I'm no longer the person that everybody has to go to understand what's going on in product. In this phase, I'll share some tips for building a backlog that works as a foundation for your product ecosystem, and then connect it with other tools so that you can save some time in your day. So just like with any product, we're going to start with the MVP. This will serve as the foundation that the rest of the ecosystem will be built on top of. Determining what this foundation looks like will also help us prototype solutions for our stakeholders and validate any assumptions that we've made along the way. So what makes a good foundation? Think about the inputs and the outputs. There may be product feedback that needs to funnel into more of a product portfolio backlog, which can then act as a space to aggregate ideas and do additional research before you prioritize something. Projects that are prioritized on the roadmap can then be added to a projects backlog, and this project level backlog can inform other stakeholders of the progress that has been made. And you may have one-off tasks that help other teams, like those marketing website updates, make progress, and those need to go to a task backlog. And from that same area, you may need to let people know when certain items are completed. There are a lot of ways to organize these, and if your team is very small, you may find that you only need one backlog, and I think that is a perfect solution. And if you expect your team to grow, you may want to pick a tool that is flexible enough for you to enhance over time. And there are a lot of tools out there that can be used to organize backlogs. I think we've all been like Jira'd at some point or another. I got rallied one time too when I was at a company that followed Scaled Agile Framework. Some teams go super light and adopt Trello. You've ClickUp and Basecamp and Asana. There are so many work management tools out there, and thankfully there are lots of ways to integrate with them as well. Since my company, Brandfolder, is owned by Smartsheet, it's probably not a surprise that I dug in and built our entire backlog ecosystem using Smartsheet. I think that says a lot about just my love of VLOOKUPs and sheets. As you're evaluating the hundreds of project and work management products out there, think about some of the flows you may want to automate. For example, do you want to add a task to your backlog when someone fills out a Google form? Do you want to send a message to Slack when a high priority customer issue is resolved? Pick a tool that has a robust integration system around it so that you can start automating all of the little things. And now that you have an idea of what your backlog will look like, it's time to select tools that can connect your inputs and outputs to the backlog. One common example is that intake form that I talked about, where you can get information from stakeholders and then create actionable tasks. Some work management tools have forms that can automatically add form inputs into your backlog. This is a great way to reduce the amount of time you spend translating items from person A to person B. The full context of the work can go straight to the backlog and be prioritized as needed. And there are a number of outputs from the backlog that can help you share the information that other teams need while minimizing the number of one-off conversations you have to have. So you don't have to explain how something works or review the scope of a project 4 different times. These key outputs may include reports that show the status of all projects in flight with links to relevant documentation, reports that show which issues have been resolved, curated views that show someone the status of a request they made, or maybe the most recent version of the roadmap. Giving cross-functional teams access to the information they need means you are no longer the point person. You don't need to have meetings to share this information. You don't have to respond to multiple emails and Slack messages asking for this information. Everyone knows where to go and they can self-serve. It's amazing. And lastly, think about how you want to connect inputs and outputs to your backlog. We live in an amazing time where we can set up powerful integrations between 2 different products without the need to write code. Want to use a free Google form to act as an intake to your Trello backlog? You can set that up in minutes using a tool like Zapier or Tray. Tools like Google Apps Script give you a low-code way to automate simple things like sending a Slack message when there's a new request or something is complete. Want to have a single solution that does it all? I mean, that's what I use Smartsheet for. And I'll share a little bit more about the architecture of my product ecosystem in Smartsheet, and then show how someone could build something very similar using a variety of tools, some of which are free or very cheap. So my product ecosystem is really centered around 3 backlogs that share a lot of information between them. And my stakeholders have access to a variety of forms that allow them to make specific requests, which go directly into the backlog so that they can be prioritized against our other goals. Stakeholders can manage, they can access a variety of other information on sheets and dynamic views. And as you really think about what your ecosystem architecture might look like, I think it's a good time to start looping in key stakeholders and talking to them about how how you want to help them access or provide the information they need to when it comes to them collaborating with the product team. Validate the solution that you're dreaming up before you go too far down the rabbit hole, just to make sure you're on the right track. One of the biggest time savers for me has been the automations and real-time views that ensure that everyone is getting the information they need. There are a lot of Smartsheet automations that kind of move items between sheets and backlogs, and those automations can also post messages in Slack when a new request is made or a recent request was completed. I also have various views that allow people to edit specific items that they submitted. I also have real-time release calendars that help consolidate all of the project information that marketing or customer support or customer implementation may need, so that they can see how things are going, how projects are progressing, and access any of the artifacts that they may need to help them prepare training materials or define a marketing campaign. Even our product issue triage process will automatically move product issues into the backlog once they've been prioritized. And all of these little messages and form submissions, requests for updates, requests for statuses, all of this adds up over time. So the more that you can automate and make readily available, the more time that you, the product manager, can save for yourself. Once you do start building out what you need, you may find that a number of forms, views, and all of this information, it just evolves and grows over time. So you may want to package it into a one-stop shop for everyone. I do that with a Smartsheet work app, and I also have a lot of information now beyond the request forms and reports. Now we have user research and customer interview information, all readily available in our product team app. And this also gave me a really easy way to give access to specific teams and maintain views for different roles. So you may be wondering, okay, Skye, I don't really work for a collaborative work management SaaS company. And I think that's a totally valid point. There are ways to build similar workflows using a variety of tools, many of which are free, or you might be using in your process today. The solution may not be as elegant when you're using multiple tools. And if you go through a period of massive growth, it may be a little bit difficult to scale your process, might require a little more effort, but it can certainly get the job done and help you save precious time down the road. You may also be at a small startup and have limited resources, so leveraging free or very cheap tools may be the best path forward. Luckily, a lot of what I've shared so far can be handled through a basic task tracking tool, Google Suite, Google Apps Script, and some diligent Googling. And if you still want to provide a one-stop shop for your end users, you can get creative with putting all the links in a single sheet. I think your coworkers will deeply appreciate not having to keep track of 15 different items. So after you've created this new process, it's time to release it into the world. Make sure you've documented how things work so that everyone can refer to that in the future. Meet with all of your stakeholder groups and plan, and define how you will all work together moving forward. When everyone's ready, start implementing your new ways of working together. Be prepared to make adjustments based on how things are going with the new process, and continuously ask for feedback and make incremental improvements over time. And as this product ecosystem changes, consider how you want to share out those changes, whether it's in a biweekly company-wide email, or if you have a company-wide monthly meeting to share out any of that info or relevant product updates. That might be a good path forward. So there you have it. We use product discovery techniques to better understand the challenges our stakeholders face. And then we leveraged a variety of tools to help us address those challenges and automate the movement of information and notifications. And we did it all by leveraging our backlog. So while I cannot prove conclusively that my hypothesis is true, the results have definitely indicated that the product backlog can help teams across the company collaborate and do better work. You might be wondering how I spend my time now that I'm not relaying information and updating statuses of things. Automating all of these little things and just trusting the process to get the information where it needs to go has really allowed me to spend more time on, talking to our customers about how they use Brandfolder, developing a one-year product strategy that aligns to our business goals, researching competitive products so that I can evolve Brandfolder beyond the competition, projecting pipeline ad for new features based on Salesforce win-loss data, and so many other high-value tasks. So that is how you, as a solo product manager or a lean product team, can elevate your org with the backlog. So thanks everyone so much for joining. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat and I will take a few minutes to answer them. All right. Sharing the deck. I actually have several blog posts that outline this, and what I'll do is I will post another one and include some relevant links that directly tie to this talk. But you can find me on Skye Bacus and on Medium, or just skyebacus.com. Program backlog is in monday.com. Oh, repeating status information on calls. Oh, interesting. So program backlog is on monday.com and you have projects in Smartsheet. So are these like different projects that are in the same like product management life cycle, or are they like with different teams that you're trying to align different statuses with? That question was from Brian Summers. I don't know if Smartsheet and monday.com have a direct integration. They probably don't, since I think they're competitors. But that, I think, if you build a funnel for booking consultations for a telehealth platform, is there a website or good place to find people to test the funnel? Booking consultations. So this is another question. There is a website called like usertesting.com, and I don't know if that's kind of what you're looking for, but that can be a good spot if you're just looking for like random people to test it. If you have, if you're looking to build out more of a user interview backlog, if you have customers that you have really strong relationships with, if they have people even in their company who would be willing to work with you and like test this out, that can always be a really great starting point to get people to test out new features and functionality. User interviews are super fun. I do have a blog post on some methods for sourcing users to actually do user testing with. So that might be a decent resource as well. But it's a little bit more targeted towards the SaaS space. Okay, cool. Well, if there are no more questions, I think, oh, wait, there's one more. All right, we have a question. Do you have separate backlogs in your project management tool that engineers can see, or is it one backlog? We use Shortcut, was Clubhouse, and I'm trying to figure out how to do the same thing. Yeah, so I actually have, the way mine is set up, I have a product management backlog that only product people kind of work out of, and that pushes things into a projects backlog, which is the prioritized roadmap items. And all of our engineers have access to that. And then they mostly work out of the task backlog, which I'll be honest, I rarely put things in there. I think that's more for like the engineers to kind of help organize their work, and then also deal with inputs from various stakeholders. So I really like having like my own product management backlog because it helps me stay organized and do research. Cool. Well, everyone, thanks so much for attending today. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or Medium. I'm in both of those places.